let me just say hello for everybody who's might see this or the few people who might see this on the video, but hello. And the question we have today is, if we have an EPS file of our logo, could any designer with Adobe open it up and change the font and or color scheme? Next, is Adobe the only products EPS files can be created in? And do you know what format Canva creates in? So this is a great question because it has so many technical details. So I'm going to do some sharing on my screen today in order to really demonstrate all of these things. So the first question is, if the EPS file, any designer could go in and edit that essentially in Adobe. And the answer is yes and no. It depends on how, let's see the word I should choose here, how well the original designer set the file up to protect it. And so when you're creating a logo, the final step should be to turn the font into outlines, which would prevent anybody else from going in and being able to edit that font, at least easily edit it. They could still go in with some of the tools and pull points around and frankly really screw it up if they really wanted to. But most people aren't going to put that effort in and try to do that. Um, Sometimes I will see logos or I'll come across logos in my work that actually haven't been really properly set up. And so maybe it doesn't end up being fully transparent in a spot, or it has a black background in a spot, or something like that, because the designer didn't really go in and clean up the file at the end. That's a little bit of a side tangent from the text piece of it, but you can definitely tell as a designer when you go in and look at somebody's logo file how professional the builder actually was with how they set it up. So then, oh, but sorry, back to the color scheme piece. Like, yes, it's pretty easy to go in and edit the color. It's essentially just clicking on it and changing the color. And so I do want to share my screen so I can kind of demonstrate a few things here. And let me just find the pieces that I pulled up for this. Okay. You can see the, whoops, logo file, right? Just moving it all
Yes.
around. Okay, so this is my logo. This one is the one that is essentially finished and correctly set up. So all of this text is called, it's outlined. So like, yes, I can click on it and I could even, sorry, ungroup that and I could kind of move each one individually, but like this is not text that I could just go in and type something else there. So that's the outlined file. My original file, and let me stop share and share just in case that didn't quite work. I know sometimes it doesn't quite pick up the new thing. So this is like the editable file where I could just like go in and change something. So then on the Canva side of it, let me stop share again. I wanted to test out to make sure I was giving you the right answer. And so I did go in and just like quickly make a little logo graphic using their supplied logo pieces in Canva. And so like right now this piece is editable in Canva. I could go in and just change the font to whatever, and it has this circle that it came with. Um, and then when you export it is kind of how you pick the file type. So if you wanted to create a logo in Canva that is a vector, you would go to the download and pick the SVG as your download preference. And that does create a logo that is editable in Illustrator later. So let me stop share. I did that as well. Okay, so here is the Canva logo that I downloaded as an SVG. Now, the one thing that I wanted to know is that once you export it as an SVG, it's all automatically creating the outlines. So I couldn't go in and edit the text as just editable text at this point, but does make it scalable. Oops, I didn't grab that with it. But so that is likely a good solution for somebody who wants to make their own vector graphic that then could be scalable in different situations. Um, some little things that I noticed that are a little weird about that is it like puts this background on it and it had like 2 layers of background files. So if you originally downloaded that, it would probably have this white background on it, and you would need to go in and take that white background out in order to use it as a real transparent EPS. Um, so sorry, just checking to see if I answered all the pieces there.
And what was the file type on that again?
So it's a SVG,
Okay.
and that's the one that is usually reserved for online versions of a logo.
Okay.
But since it is a vector, from my experimenting, you can go in and edit it and save it like a real vector file. So I could go in Adobe, take someone's SVG. I've actually tested this out and done this. Pulled someone's SVG off the website, brought it into Illustrator, blown it up, and saved it as an EPS. And that seems to work pretty well.
Can I ask another layer of question? And you might be getting to this, but say you create something in Canva, it's this SVG file, then could you convert or save as into your RGB or CMYK? Yes.
Yes. So there are a couple, I guess, nuances that I need to clarify when I say yes. Yes, and so yes, you could say that SVG provided somebody with Illustrator, they could open it in Illustrator and they could edit the colors to be either the CMYK or RGB. So for instance, like I'm just going to make up some numbers here. I have no idea what color this is going to be. Oops, that didn't work. Oh, that should work. I don't know why that didn't work the first time. So yeah, I could go in there. It's an RGB color. It even says, I don't know if you can see up here on the preview. Hopefully that's showing up on your screen that it's an
Yeah, it is.
RGB. Yeah. So then I could save it as RGB. If I were to save it as CMYK with a CMYK color profile, then I would have the CMYK version. Um, in Canva, let me stop share here for a minute. This is one of the little tricks about Canva that's I haven't found a good like workaround in teaching. So if you have ideas, let me know. They include, sorry, hold on, let me pull this up for you. So they include options for your CMYK color profile. The challenge that I found is that the way Canva converts RGB color to CMYK color, it doesn't necessarily align the way Adobe converts it. And then, Pantone has another conversion on their swatches, and none of these things exactly align. And so, my recommendation is with your CMYK color, if you're building in RGB, you're probably going to want to work with if a commercial printer, assuming you're having something like large done in commercial printing, to dial in the color before you kind of have the entire print job done, just to make sure that it does come out correctly. And I have had clients come to me and say, this previous designer did a terrible job. The blue's not right. And when I'm like, okay, well, what color? They're like, hex code, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, that's why, you know,
Uh,
because it doesn't necessarily convert.
Translate.
Yeah. So one other thing that I wanted to show you while we are in Canva, hopefully I can still pull this up easily. Just testing to show you what would happen. I did pull in my logo that does not have the font outlined. And as you can see, whoops. Oh wait, actually that did work. The first time I tested that, it like came up with this like weird font. And I was like, okay, well, that explains like why we wouldn't want to do that. But actually, this is kind of no, it is kind of off. Can you tell? I mean, this is a little closer than my original test, but like this Academy font does not look quite like my brand font. It's just changed it a little bit. Um,
It's got strange spacing too.
yeah, exactly. So it's
Yeah.
because it wasn't outlined, it's just kind of interpreting things and not giving it a consistent look the way I would want it to look.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, any other questions along that? I hope that was
When
clear.
you do that, when you turn, when they, a designer will convert the font to an outline, it essentially takes it from an outline, excuse me, it will essentially take it from a font to artwork. Is
Yeah,
that right?
yeah, they're shapes at that point. They're not
They're
like fonts
shaped.
that you
That's what
can,
I meant.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, so it'll be like Tahoma or whatever when it's typed out. But then once the graphic designer converts it to or does it as an outline, then it's just shapes and it can be adjusted accordingly.
yeah. Let me
Okay.
show you kind of that in Illustrator again. Okay, so this is the outlined version of my logo again, and let me zoom in here. Hopefully you can see that a little bit better. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, so now it's a shape because it's outlined. So like I could pull points and do something really
Okay.
outrageous to it, but I can't just edit the type and make it a different font.
Got it.
Anything else around
I don't think so.
that? Okay. Well, that was the only question today. So unless you have something else, I'll let you go.
I don't think so. I think it's first of all, I found this section to be very, very interesting and finally having answered questions about serif and sans serif or sans
Oh,
serif.
good.
I never knew that, which seems odd for a person who's spent a lot of time making a living with this stuff. But yeah. And now I've noticed when I've done my competitive research and you ask about fonts,
Uh-huh.
and I was like one of my competitors, like they combined serif and sans serif fonts on their webpage. And I'm like, why would somebody do something so atrocious? Whereas I may not have ever noticed it before.
That's funny. But I will say, like, I mean, depending on how they're combining it, like, generally your font, like your brand fonts, will have a sans serif because I can't remember if I actually mentioned this in the video. If I didn't, I should. But that is historically, I should say, historically, your sans serif has been used on web pages for the body copy because old monitors didn't have high enough display to show the little feet on the serif fonts.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's kind of become like just a traditional practice to use the sans serif as your body copy on a website.
Okay.
And so people often use the serif or some type of display for their headlines and those kinds of things.
Okay. Well, all right. We'll take them out of font prison then, because that's
Okay. But I was gonna say, like, the opposite.
actually,
So,
now that I think of it, I think she did the opposite.
okay, yeah.
And like the titles are sans serif and the body copy is, or
Okay.
is it the other way around? I can't remember now. I'm gonna have to go back and look, but I thought there was definitely a difference in one was body copy and one was like headline. So I'm gonna have to now go back and look and see how they
Okay. Let us
interesting.
say, so in print design, it's usually the opposite, where people will use the sans serif as the headline and the serif as the body copy because the little feet on the letters helps your eye follow a line straight across.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. And then I mean the sans serif is definitely like more newsy,
Yeah,
right? That's what I kind of think of like a news headline. So that makes sense there.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm glad
Been
you
great.
enjoyed it. I was worried, like, how much is too much, you know? Like, do they really care about this or do I just care about it?
I think that's one of those things that you didn't think you cared about until you notice it, until you learn about it and notice it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Or maybe it was something that was kind of off for your eye, but you couldn't figure out why.
that makes sense.
I don't know, but it was brilliant. And then learning about I don't know, maybe I'm going off ticket here, but still like even learning about like the different file types and what they're ideal for. I don't think I ever knew that.
Okay, good. And
So I think most people don't know that, honestly. So I think that's incredibly valuable. And it made me go through and I was like, I wonder if I have all of those in my logo files, right? So I went into my, my final and we do have most of them for sure. So
good. Yeah.
yeah, so that
And
was
that,
kind of cool.
so that is why I wanted to include that because being on the receiving end of people's logos and things as a designer, I'm often getting the wrong file types for things. And so I wanted to help people know like what they should provide a designer if they want things to work out well. And I've also had a lot of people, like I was saying, the woman complaining about the blue. Like I had another person complaining to me about how she provided a logo to a screen printer and they didn't do the right thing. And again, she was like, and I provided the hex code. And I didn't want to tell her again, well, that's your problem.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure. And the hex codes are better for the online stuff, right? And it's like it's way, way different for online as than it will be for print. Yeah.
yeah, so the hex code can only be used online because like it is literally HTML code to signify a color. And
Okay.
since screen calibration is always different, how that color looks on my screen is going to be different from how it looks on your screen. So if you provide it to a printer who's looking at their screen to try to decide what color you actually wanted, they're probably not going to do a good color match.
Oh, I see. You know what? That's also really helpful, I think, too, for people who are having someone design a logo for them and say, okay, these are the deliverables I want then.
Yeah,
I want like a non-compressed EPS file and I want a JPEG and all these things and CMYK and RGB. Like I want it all so that I
exactly.
have everything that I need to use for online, for print, for big, for small, for an avatar. What did you call it? The thing,
Oh, the favicon?
favicon. Yeah, for that, all that stuff. So brilliant.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad you got, value out of it. That was the goal.
Tons, tons. And even the competitive stuff felt like homework. But
Sure did. I knew that was going to be the roughest part.
I did it, and like, it was valuable, incredibly valuable. So yeah,
Good.
no, learning tons. This is good stuff. I'm really
Good.
excited about it.
Yay. I'm so glad.
So that's that. That's all I've got.
Well, thanks for your time today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much too.
Absolutely. And I'll see you in, well, maybe not next week online, but hopefully the week after.